Ah, okay. I know in prayer school.
Yes, ma'am.
Or prayer school.
Yes, ma'am. I'm there, ma'am.
But when you get there, don't worry. I'll take control. And if all of them don't come by 12:30, I'm canceling class for them.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you, dear. Calm
Yes,
down.
ma'am.
Cool.
Okay.
Alright, hi Covenant. Can
Bye.
you hear me?
Good morning, ma'am.
Hello, can you hear me?
Huh?
Can you hear me? Hello. Hello. Covenant, please let me know if you can hear me.
Uh, your it's not loud. Though. I can't hear you very well.
Can you hear me better now?
Your voice is low. Like that's the voice low.
My voice is low.
Like maybe the volume. I can't hear you loud.
Is it better now?
Okay, yes, yes.
Alright. So I think we just have like one more class and it's going to be a 1 hour session. Right.
Today,
What did you say?
today's class will be 1 hour.
Yeah, today's class will be 1 hour. Because like the last class, and yeah, it's just a couple of things that we need to do, and then we round up to next before the next 1 hour, hopefully. Alright, just let me know as soon as you can see my screen.
You
Alright,
can
can you
see.
see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today we'll be learning about advanced functions, right? I'm not sure if you started functions the last time, but today we'll be learning about different functions, the if function, the VLOOKUP, the XLOOKUP, the index match, and a couple of other things, right? So basically, let me see if you have that table here. Um, it's supposed to be a small table. It's that table. Okay, probably we use our normal sales table that I've been using for a while now. I don't know. Yeah, this should be 8. Alright, so we are going to be using this one as an example. Right, so we are learning about advanced functions, just like I mentioned. I want to see a couple of things using this advanced function. So first and foremost is the if function. So based on the word if is just a statement of condition, right? Or is a statement of logic, right? So if what if we have heard different statements in English, what if this one, what if that one? But essentially, if is that statement that we use in making comparisons logically, right? And then it just returns one value, right? If the condition is true, it returns the value. If the condition is not true, it returns another value. So this is actually the syntax based on what we can see, right? If logical test, value is true, what value should you return if it is true? Then what value should you return if it is false? Let's say for our data, you want to actually select the category that is less than 5,000. So we name the column 5,000 less or less than 5,000 essentially, right? And then if it's less than 5,000, we say true, right? If it's greater than 5,000, we'll say false. So the first thing we are going to do is to actually pick up our logic, which is this, right? This is our condition, and that's what we are going to be using. So I don't know if we have spoken about formulas before, but I'm very sure we have spoken about formulas before. So we are going to
Yes,
be looking at more advanced formulas, right? We have spoken about formulas before, right?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. So today we are going to be looking at like more advanced formulas that can help us do a lot of things inside of Excel. So I'm going to be calling this one less than 5,000, less than 5,000, right? And essentially what we are going to do is you are going to be using the if function. So to use an if function, you have to start with equals to then if. So the logical test is that we want to test that if the total sales is less than 5,000, it should return true. So at this point, what we are going to do is that we are going to select the sale name where total sales is. And under this place, it is I2, right? So we are going to say I2, right, less than or equals to 5,000. Less than or equals to 5,000. So that's how to do it, less than and equals to, right? So less than or equals to 5,000. Sorry, I think my mouse is taking a long time to respond on my controls. Okay, so if it is less than or equals to 5,000, right? Hmm, I don't know why it's changed that way. That's completely normal. So if I2 is less than or equals to 5,000, what's the value that it should return if it's true? We want to return um which value? Let's say possibly we want to return correct, or if it's less than or equals to 5,000, let's return the value correct, right? But if it's false, Holy Spirit, what's going on? Sorry, I think because I have something running in the background, it's taking a while to actually load up. What is supposed to load up normally? Yeah, it's because I have something running in the background. So less than or equals to 5,000, we give correct, right? Then what is the value that it should return if it's false, right? Let's say that value is not less than or equals to 5,000. What should it actually give to us? We'll say should return a value of not correct, essentially, not correct, right? That's the value that we want it to return. Um, yeah, don't know why this is really this way. So let's make this capital letter. Let's make this double R. So if we run this, right, we can see if it's less than or equals to 5,000, right? Or let's put less than. It's because of the equals to, so we're seeing it as 5,000. So if it's less than 5,000, it should be correct, right? Because we want to catch values that are not up to that. So let's do less than. You can see is not less than 5,000. So it's giving us correct. So that's how if works. If actually does a logical comparison. So let's say this value, let's make it across all the other rows. So what do? We just click this small box and drag down, right? So we can see the first two are actually not less than or equal to 500, or they are not less than 5,000, right? But the last three are less than 500. And that's just how we can use conditions, or that's how we can use if, essentially, right? Then we have another function called the VLOOKUP function. We call it the VLOOKUP function. So for this VLOOKUP function, what it does is that it helps us look for a specific value, right? It helps us search for a value in the very first column of a table, right? And then when it looks for this value, it will now return the value that is inside that row, right? So essentially, we are going to look at an example so that we understand better. So this is already an example that is here. Let's say we want to actually get the price of banana. What's the price of banana? Remember, this is the first column. So we want to check the price of banana. So this is the normal syntax for it. The syntax is VLOOKUP, then the lookup value. Which value are we trying to get itself? What's that thing that we're trying to get the value for, right? And inside this place, we want to get the price for banana, which means the VLOOKUP, our value that we are trying to look up here is banana. So it's the value itself, not the cell name, right, that we'll put. So we'll now choose the table array where Excel should go inside to look for that, for the value of that thing, right? We tell it, okay, this is where you should go, and this is the table that you are targeting. This is where you need to check for it. So we need to point to Excel that, okay, go into this table and look from A to B, right? From A to B, look inside it, and then we now need to specify the column where it's going to get the value from, or the column index. And when we are talking about column indexes, I'm still going to explain. So this column index, for example, this is column index 1 because it's the first column. This is column index 2 because it's the second column. This is column index 3, third, column index 4, 5, 6, right? And the rest. Oh, all right. So Mr. Kasim, you are welcome. All right. So that's essentially how it works, right? So column index, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, right? Just the number of columns. That's what we call column indexes. So I'm going to explain VLOOKUP again, essentially. Welcome, Mr. Kasim. All right. So VLOOKUP actually goes to search for the value of a specified item inside the specified table. So let's say, for example, we want to look for banana inside of this table. So we have to specify the value of what we want to look for. For instance, we want to get the price of banana. So we have to tell the lookup that, okay, go and look for the value of banana inside of this table, that is table A to B, right? Which means you are going to start from this range. And normal Excel, this range, okay, let me put it inside Excel so that we'll be able to specify, and then we'll be able to explain better. Sorry, just give me a minute. Go inside Excel and create another sheet, right? And let me copy this to explain as well. All right. All right. So let's say we want the value of banana. Of course, I have to do this first row. Yeah. Oh, how is slow this morning? it now. All right, so we want to get the value of banana, and we know that our normal lookup is this is the value. Sorry, let me copy that again. I don't know why my this thing is misbehaving today. Sorry, just give it a minute. So let me copy the formula and paste it here. Yeah, so this is our formula. Our lookup value, we want to get the price of banana, right? That's what we are trying to get. So which means in this lookup value, what are we going to do? We're going to say, okay, let's do banana because it's the price of banana that we are trying to get. So we are going to do banana, right? We are trying to get the price of banana. Now we need to specify where you should look at or where you should look from. So what do? We specify the table array. And in our scenario, our table starts from A1 to what? Our table starts from A1 to B3. So that's what we are going to do. Our table is in, we specify to it that our table is in A1 to B3, right? Then we have to specify the column index number where you should pick the value from, right? So you are trying to tell it where you should pick the value from. So we want it to pick the value from B, right? And B in this case, the column index number is 2 since it's the second column. So we'll specify 2. And then the range lookup. Are we doing a range lookup? That is, are we looking for a range of values? No, we are not. We are just looking for one single value. So we specify the range lookup to be false, right? So when we click on enter, we run our formula. Let's see what it gives to us. Okay, sorry. Mm, I need to stop what's going on in the background. It's making it take a lot of time to load, and it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. All right, so let's run our value. So you can see it has picked the value of banana as 0.8, right? It has picked the value of banana as 0.8. So that's just the simple way to make use of VLOOKUP, right? And I always advise if you're using a formula for the very first time, right, and you don't know how to use this technically. So I'm going to give us what we call a cheat sheet for Excel formulas. So it's just simply called a cheat sheet because it helps us easily access the syntax for our formulas. Just like what I wrote here, this is called a syntax for formulas. So it helps us to easily access the syntax for our formulas. So that's essentially how a VLOOKUP actually works, right? And I've explained it. So let's use it again so that we can get to understand better, right? And then we'll also look at how to use XLOOKUP function. So let's use it in another instance or scenario. Where is it? Okay, this is it. So let's say, for example, now we want to get how much the total sales that Emily White made in yeah, the total sales made by Emily White, right? We want to get that value because they have asked us that question. What is the total sales made by Emily White? So you want to start using this, right? You want to start by copying your taking time. You want to start by copying your function. Sorry, my laptop seems to be freezing up. Sorry, let's just give it a minute. So you want to start by doing what? Copy your syntax, right? So copy your syntax. When you copy your syntax, navigate back into your Excel document and paste it somewhere, right? So when you paste it somewhere, you already know, okay, now the question is, what is the total sales made by Emily White, right? So I can't navigate somewhere else because I've used equals to. What is the total sales made by Emily White? Now you know the value that they are asking you to get. It is the total sales made by Emily White, which means that your lookup value is what? Your lookup value is what's it called now? Your lookup value is Emily White. So which means you are doing this, you are specifying Emily. make sure you write it the same way that is written inside of your, what's it called, your document or your table, right? Hello, can we still see my screen and hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, amazing. Just give me a minute. All right. So we already know that it's Emily White that we are trying to look for. And what's the table array? Where do we want it to look at it from? Where do we want it to check from? So what I'm going to do is that rather than starting from A, since I know where my sales is coming from or where my sales is starting from, so I'm going to be specifying that it should go into what? It should go into table array starting from E. So I'm going to be specifying E. So my table array, yeah, is going to be E2, right? Yes, E2 down to where the total sales is stopping at, which is I. E2 to I6, yes, E2 to I6. All right. So you can see immediately I clicked on E2 to I6, it has already selected the range. Now, let's look at the next thing, the column index number where I want you to pick the value from. Now, if you look at the table array that is selected, based on that, it's going to look at this as like 1, this is column index 1, this is column index 2, this is column index 3, 4, 5, right? So I'm going to be specifying 5, right? And I'm going to be telling it that the range lookup should be false because I'm just looking for a single value. So let's enter. So 1,400 by Emily White, and that's the exact amount that the total sales that she made, 1,500. Now, do we have any question? Okay, let me re-explain because I know that we might actually have a question, right? So basically, don't be confused. Now, the VLOOKUP is a formula that actually specifies how to use it. Start with the lookup value. Now, the question that they asked us, let me open a notepad so that we're able to see. Yeah. Okay, so the question that we were asked is that what is the total sales made by Emily White, right? This is the question that we're asked. So which means directly or indirectly, they have given us our lookup value. Our lookup value in this instance is Emily White, right? So we'll say, okay, lookup value is Emily White, right? Lookup value is equals to Emily White. So they have given up our lookup value. Now, the next thing we need to know is that where are we even going to start looking for? Which specific part of the our full Excel sheet do we need to look from? Personally, I always advise that you start from that column where your lookup value is inside. Start from that column where your lookup value is inside. Now, our lookup value is inside of column E. So which means you are starting from E, right? And we have to start from the first row inside column E. And according to this place, our first row is E2 because this is just a column name. It's not part of the row. So that's why I started with E2. And I ended at that point where he needed to look for, or when he needed to pick up the value from, right? So I ended at I6 in my case, right? So after ending there, the next thing that we need to specify is what's the column index number where you should pick out what you're looking for from. Now, the question is what's the total sales made by Emily White, which means that our index, right? Our index column name, which is not number, our index column name is actually total sales. That means that's where it will pick up the value from. So total sales, right? That's our index column name. Now we need to specify what's that index column number, right? Remember that we have already specified from this place, right? Remember that we have already specified from this place that our table should start from E2, which means that if you are going to start counting, you need to start counting from E2 as number one. So your E2 is 1, your your E rather is 1, column index 1, because we are starting our table from E2 because we specified our table array should be E2 to I6, which means that our E is column index 1, region is column index 2, G is column index 3, unit price is column index 4, and total sales is column index 5. So which means you can safely say, okay, our column in the index column number is actually 5. Right, thereafter we will not specify if it should be within a range of values or not. So no, we don't want a range of values, we just want the exact value, right? So we specified false, and that was how we were able to get 1 4. So the answer to our question, right, is essentially 1,400. That was the total sales made by Emily White, right? So our answer is actually equals to 1,400, right? So I don't know if we get that. If we get that. Hello, do you have any question based on that?
No more.
All right, no. Okay, so let's quickly look at XLOOKUP. XLOOKUP also looks very similar to that, essentially. So now that's actually how VLOOKUP works. VLOOKUP is like one of those, I don't want to use the word complicated, but once you get it, you have gotten it. Now, XLOOKUP also looks like it, and then we'll also be looking at a couple of functions, and then we'll close class for today based on that. After we do a quick hands-on, I'm still expecting our project. Please, whatever we do, if you want to get a certification, it's very, very important that we submit our project, right? So now let's see what XLOOKUP actually does, right? XLOOKUP is similar to VLOOKUP, but in the sense that it is more flexible rather than VLOOKUP, right? It is more flexible rather than VLOOKUP, right? So you can see it says it can look up values in any direction and return corresponding values, which means that it can look from all directions, from different directions, and at the end of the day, it will actually return what you are looking for at the end of the day. So the same way we actually start explaining this, the same way we explained the other one, right? So let me put our product and our price back. So we are going to use this table first, and then we are going to use the other table to explain or to understand better. So let's add a column on top of this. Sorry, my this thing seems to be misbehaving today. Don't know what's going on with it. Yeah. So let's add a column on top of this. That then we call this the product, and then we call this the price. Product and price. All right. Very good. All right. So let's see our syntax. Our syntax for XLOOKUP says the lookup value, the lookup array, right? The return array, and then the value that it should return if not found, right? The match mode, the search mode. In fact, let's initiate it from what's it called, from Excel, so that we'll see the syntax that Excel gives to us. Let's say we are going back to Excel, and then we are saying, okay, let's be equals to X lookup, right? So you can already see it's showing already X lookup. All right. So, oh yeah, now sorry, it's taking time. So you can already see that's the same syntax like Excel gave. Lookup value, your lookup array, right? Now I'll be explaining each of the terms just like I did for VLOOKUP. What is the lookup value? I've already explained. It's the same way it applies in VLOOKUP. Your lookup value is simply the value that you are trying to search for an answer to, right? Your lookup array is just like your table array. The range where the lookup value will be searched from, but that range where your lookup value, where you are technically telling your Excel that this is where. So let's say, for example, we are trying to look for the value of orange, so which means that we are going to start with orange, right? Now we need to specify to it what is the lookup array. That is, how do we want it to search for it? Where do we even want it to search for it inside, right? So our lookup array in this case is A2, because this is the column name, so we don't want to include column name. So we tell it to start from A2, right, down to what? Down to B4 in our case scenario, right? So after we have done that, now let's see what the return array is, right? The return array is actually the range where the corresponding result is returned. So I'm going to explain. Is the range where your corresponding result, that is where the corresponding result should be found in. That is the place where you are telling you to find your corresponding result. Sorry, let me open something and let's explain so I will see the difference between it. So remember that when we're trying to use, okay, let me close this first. Let me close this first. I want us to do a comparison between this one. Okay, let me see if I can yeah, I've pasted in my notepad. So remember that for VLOOKUP, we actually had to use the index column number. But this place we are specifying for Excel where it should go inside to pick up the corresponding value. That is the value of what we are trying to look for. You are telling it, okay, this is where you should go to go and find it. So what do? We are specifying the range where you should go to go and find it. That is the column where you should go inside to go and find it. And inside our case scenario, the column belongs in B. So we need to specify the range as B2 to B4, right? Because that's where the value to that thing is inside. Now, after we have done the return array, there are other things that are inside, but they are actually optional, right? So let's say, for example, it actually also allows us to say, okay, if that value is not found, what should it return? So we can now say, okay, let it return not available, right? If the value is not found, what should it return, right? That makes sure that we don't have any error. Even if the value is not found, is a way to catch errors or do error catching in Excel. So if the value is not found, we tell it to return not available, so that either ways, whether the value is available or not, it will be able to give us or return a response. Sorry, I mentioned that my laptop is using this morning. So not available, right? So that's the value that I should return if it's not found. Now the match mode. One thing that we need to understand about the match mode is that if we want to get an exact match, yeah, we are going to specify it as 0, right? So another option that is in the match mode, I'm going to include it in your notes so that I can actually send it to you. If you want to get an exact match, the match mode will be 0. If you want to get an exact match or the next smaller item, you are going to specify as -1. If you want an exact match or the next larger item, that is the item next to it but is larger, we are going to specify 1. Now, if you now want to use a white card match, that is, if you find anything that looks like it, looks similar to it, now we are going to use 2, right? So that's what the match mode is for, and it's optional. You see all those values that are inside of this that is inside of this what do they call it now? Brackets, right? All of them are optional values. They are not compulsory. So you don't really need to bother yourself with that, except you want to do or go into advanced analysis. Now, the same way you specify the search mode or the match mode is the same way you can specify the search mode. Your search mode, if your value is 1, you're telling you to search from the first to the last, right? If your value is -1, you're telling you to search from the last to the first. If it's 2, you're telling you to search in ascending order using a binary search. If it's -2, you're telling you to search from descending order in a binary search. So just like I've mentioned, they are optional values. I know you don't need to bother your head much with that. So we are just going to stop at the values. So you can see if you click down on it, right? When I was trying to do a couple of those things, you can actually click down on it to get better understanding. Excel helps you when you write the help function. It actually defines how to use it for you as well. So we are going to stop at, yeah, so you can already see that it's producing what I can use. So it's already here. I can use the different examples. See, searches for an exact match if not found, right? So this one is exact match on next small item. Searches for an exact match if not found. Searches for the next smaller item, right? Next one is searches for an exact match. If it is not found, it searches for the next larger item. This one is white card, right? Which is number 2. It searches for white card match, right? And then regex match. Regex match is still matching regex pattern, but you won't really be able to understand regex pattern except you are not doing coding, or you are doing a bit of coding, or you are doing normal coding like Python, JavaScript, and stuff like that. So I don't want to complicate things by going into regex, right? So we are going to stop at this if not found, and then we are going to close our bracket, and we are going to press enter, right? So currently it's telling us that A2 to B4. Okay, let's reduce this bar and look for orange, and the value that it should return if not available is not supposed to be returning. Am I returning the right thing? A2 to B4. Sorry. Except I'm using a wrong, exactly. I knew I was using something wrong. So I used a column here. What was it called? It's not called a column. An upper quote. An upper quote is only applicable for text inside of Excel. So if it's text, it doesn't recognize it, right? So I used an upper quote, and that was the mistake that I made. But we have seen a practical example of what can happen if it doesn't find the value. It automatically returns the value that we specified if it's not found. So when we enter it, yeah, orange, look for orange, A2 to B4, and B2 to B4. Is there something else that I'm missing? And the value is not available. Okay, so what's wrong? Let me see. Let's debug this error. Let's see what it's saying actually. What's the error in our value? Okay, let's show the calculation steps. Alright. The next valuation will result in an error. To show the result of the underlying expression, click evaluate. The most recent results will appear. I see that's not supposed to be giving us an error actually. Um So if you catch my errors early, please you can tell me. I may not see what I've done, but that was supposed to work. Okay. If you see my errors early, please let me know. I may be missing out on something that I've not seen yet. I'm not supposed to be returning this value error. Okay, so let me see. I think I know where my error is coming from. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, very good. I'm actually saw where my error is coming from. So basically, let me explain where my error came from. Now, remember we said this is just the lookup array, right? It's not like an entire table. So basically, I think I need to go and correct this inside my notes too, so I don't send you the wrong notes. I made the mistake inside my notes. I didn't know I was going to repeat. Oh, I didn't even make the mistake. I made the mistake personally. All right. So let me explain what happened here. So I was using a lookup table instead of a lookup array, and the lookup array is the table or that range where your lookup value is inside. Then your return array is that array or that range where your return value is inside. So that was actually the error that I was making in the first instance. And please, you want to avoid making the same error, right? As it could give you a look of a value error that like you saw the other time, right? So that's actually how it happens. Now we are going to use it again another time so that we are going to get a better understanding. And I'm going to actually be asking a question. So let's say we want to get like um let me see. Okay, we want to actually see how much Emily White, the total sales that Emily White still made, right? So we are going to use X lookup to do the same, right? So I'm going to ask questions equals to X lookup, right? Equals to X lookup. And I'm going to say into brackets lookup value. Now, who can help us? Remember, we still want to use X lookup to get the sales that Emily White made. So what is our lookup value in this case scenario? Covenant.
Emily White.
All right, very good. Our lookup value is Emily White. All right, Mr. Kazim, what is our lookup array? So this is where Emily White's name is. So what do you think our lookup array is, Mr. Kazim?
This rep.
Okay, sales rep. But if you remember, sir, is a lookup array. So we need to specify the range where it needs to go and look for it. So what's the range that we need to specify? The cell range that we need to specify. What's the range that sales rep? What's that?
E5. E5.
Is it just E5? It's called an array, a range. It's not just a specific place, a range. Where should it start looking from? Because we are making it look for something. So we need to specify like a range where you should look from it, a range of cells where you should look for it.
E1 to E E1 to E6.
All right, E1 to E6. But we don't want to also include the column name. So we are just going to tell you to start from where the column values are starting. So you got it at E2. It's actually E2 since you are not specifying the column name, right? So we are telling it E2 to E6, right? Because sales rep is actually the column name. So that's very correct. So Mr. Kasim, where do you think the return array should? What do you think is our return array? Remember that we are trying to get the total sales made by Emily White. So what's our return array rather?
The return array would be E5. That's where
So our
that's
return
where Emily White
array,
appear.
our return array is not the same as our lookup array. Our return array is actually the range of cells where we are telling Excel to pick our return values from. So the same way we told Excel that this is the name of the person or this is this person, this is the range of cells you should look for the lookup value, right? We are specifying to Excel at the same time that this is the range of cells where you should pick our values from or the answer where you should pick our answer from. So the question now is where should Excel actually pick our answer from? That is the value that is supposed to return. Where is it supposed to pick it from? The range of the cells where it's supposed to pick it from.
That's
Okay, on total sale.
Yes, total sales. So what's the range of the sales? What's the range of the total sales? What's the range of the cells where you should pick it from?
I2 to I6.
Very good. It's actually I2 to I6. So this is total sales. This is where the values that you should pick it up from is. So that's what we call a return array, where you pick our answers from. So that's actually I2 to I6. Then we can try to return any value if it is not found. We can just tell it to return, okay, the or value not available. You can tell it to say value not available. So on saying value not available, we close our bracket and then it returns value for us. So we can see it returns exactly 1400. So that's actually how XLOOKUP works, right? So XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP, once you understand the basics, you don't need to struggle with it anymore, right? So essentially, that's how it works. Now let's look at other couple of what was it called? Let's look at other couple of formulas that we can use, right? So another formula that we can use is index match, right? When we use index and match, right, we can use it to perform lookups together. If we want to perform VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP, but we want it to even be more flexible, right, we can use index and match. So first and foremost, we need to specify the index where our return value is, and then we need to specify where it should look up from. Okay, so let's copy this and use that same Emily White example that we'll be using. Let's use index and match to actually perform the same thing. So index, the return range, just return range is just the same thing as the return array, right? That is the place where Excel should go inside to pick up our answer from, right? Our answers, where should it go into to pick up our answer from? So basically that means it's I2 to I6, right? Because we want to get the total sales made by Emily White. So we'll specify our return range as what? I2 to I6. So we are specifying that, okay, that is where our value is, and that is the return range that you want to take a look at. That is where our value is, and that is the return range where you want to take a look at. So that's what we are telling Excel. So match the lookup value. What is the lookup value? Remember that in this instance, our lookup value is still what? The same thing as the original lookup value that we are trying to look for. In our case scenario, it is what? Emily White. Because we want to get the total sales made by Emily White. So what are we going to specify? We're still going to specify Emily White. So it works the same way lookup works, as long as you know the definition of all those terms already. I think I'm going to include definition of all those terms so that you understand better inside your class notes. So it's Emily White, right? That's the lookup value. Now the lookup array or the lookup range. Now where's our lookup range? That is where should it go and look inside to get the name of the person is E2 to E6. The same way we did for X lookup. Our lookup array is actually also our lookup range, right? So we will say, what are we going to say? We are going to say technically our lookup range is, where is the name of those people? Their names are E2 to E6. So we are going to specify E2 to E6. So when we specify 0, you can see the match type is either 0. We have a lot of match types essentially. So match type, when we say 0, we are telling you to give us an exact match, right? And I'm going to also include those codes as well into your notes. So you can see that we have been able to use combination of index and match to achieve the same thing as well, right? We have been able to use combination of. All right, so the question that we asked is, what is total sales made by Emily White? And we can see how we were able to use a combination of things to actually do what we need to do essentially, right? Sorry, enter. All right, we've been able to use VLOOKUP to look for the total sales made by Emily White. We've been able to use XLOOKUP. We've been able to use combination of index and match to do the same thing, right? So that's what index and match actually does for us. Do you have any questions based on using index and match?
Now,
Any?
which one
Okay.
is suitable for everything?
What did you say?
Which one is suitable to use for the period you just gave us?
Which one is?
Suitable to use, like which one is the best out of the three?
Oh, we can't say anyone is the best actually. It depends on your use case and your use scenario, right? It also depends on which one you get used to faster, right? Personally, for me, I prefer this index and match combination because it's just straight to the point for me. And because it's straight to the point for me, it does not mean that it's straight to the point for you. So if you want something very flexible and something just straight to the point, so you don't have to start thinking about combinations of things, I just love using combination of index and match essentially, right? Because I have to specify the index. Okay, this is the index where you need to look for. This is the lookup range. Then I specify the lookup value. Then I tell you, okay, this is it. So personally for me, I love index and match. But for you, you can prefer VLOOKUP or you can prefer XLOOKUP. So I can't say this one is the one that is suitable. Just use it as your case scenario applies, right? And whichever one you're able to pick up faster is what you should also use, right? So that's actually how to use it. Mr. Kasim, any questions, sir?
No question.
All right, amazing. Now let's quickly look at the left and right function, and then mid and concatenate. Then we look at stream, we look at some logical functions, and then we quickly do a hands-on. So left and right function actually look very much alike, right? So let's say we want to extract the first couple of characters from a text. We can use the left and right function, right? We want to extract the first couple of characters. We can use the left and right function. So left and right function is very useful when it comes to text analysis, right? So let's take note of that. Sorry, give me excuse me. All right. So left and right sorry, excuse me. Yeah. So left and right function can be used to extract text technically. So let's say for this one, for example, we want to extract the first two characters, first three characters, first this one, first that one. I will actually teach us how to do that, right? I will teach us how we can do that. So let's say, for example, we want to extract the first three characters of this John Doe's name. How do we do it? It's very simple and straight to the point. All we just have to do is to say equals to left into brackets, right? The text. What is the text, right? We need to specify the text where it needs to extract it from. So let's see if we can specify as E2. And the number of characters that it wants to extract, we want it to extract the first three characters. And then we do a close up. So you can see it has extracted the first three characters. John Doe. So he told us to extract the first three characters. So definitely he did an extraction of the first three characters. Now let's do right. Right. Let's do equals to right. And then we are specifying the E2 as text and then number of characters. So you can see it extracted row. Now, based on what we just saw, I want us to actually tell me the difference between using left and right function. What is the major difference that you have actually seen? What's the major difference that you have actually seen?
For the left one, it actually extracts the name from starting from the left side of the
Very
name.
good. The extra starting from the left side. So what of the right side? What of the right?
Yeah, it started from the right side, which was the end of the name, that right side of the name.
Yes. So in simple terms, left starts from left to right, while right extraction starts from right to left. So while left is going forward, right is going backward, right? So right extracts from right to left, while left extracts starting from left to right. So now let me quickly teach us a technique. Let's say, for example, we want to get the first and last name of sales rep, right? We want to get the first and last name of our sales rep. So what do we do in this case scenario, as you might ask? First and last name of our sales rep. So first sales rep, I'm going to call this last sales rep. That is their first and last name. Now, if we want to find the first name, we need to combine left with another formula that we call find, right? It's another text formula. So we need to combine it with what we call find, right? So now let's see how we can actually extract first name. So the way to do that is just to say, okay, equals to left into brackets. Remember our text. What's our text in this scenario? What's the name of the cell where our text is found?
E2, E2,
E2. Very correct. E2. That's the name of our cell. Then instead of specifying the number of characters this time around, we will now specify find into brackets. Now the text that you should find, right? And the within text, right? So now this is what we are going to do. We want you to find space. Now I'm going to be explaining. Now the reason why we want you to find space, remember that we want to extract John, right? So we are telling you to find this text within E2 again, right? When you are looking at when you are looking at E2, we are telling it find the place where there's a empty space or where there's a space, right?
inside of E2, then we are going to tell it, or we are going to have to specify, right? We are going to have to specify -1, and then we are going to close the bracket. I'm going to explain why we did -1, right? Now, normally, this is acting as our, what's it called, the number of characters that you should find, right? The number of characters that you should find specifically. Because if you remember, L2 is actually supposed to be, what is it called? L2 is supposed to actually be the formula of the text, comma, the number of characters that we want it to get, right? Now, if you are specifying that, okay, this is the number of characters, or you want to get the first name, we need to specify where it needs to get it from, which is E2, which is the text. Now, for the number of characters, we are saying that it should find those places where there's empty space, right, inside of E2, and then you should subtract -1 from it to be able to get the first name, right? So if you're trying to, like, first find first name, right, inside of this place, so let me show you what normal find equals to first name will actually give to us. Let me create a quick column so that we're able to see what's going on inside of that formula. So let's extract out this formula and also have a better understanding, so that it's not as if we are just doing what's it called, wuru to the answer that we don't understand, right? What's going on? Sorry. Anytime you do this thing like this one actually finds a way to misbehave. So let me paste it back and do enter. Now let's use this formula. We want to find space E2, and let's see what it will give to us. Let's put an equals to, right? So you can see when you said find space equals to E2, is giving you 5. Do you get? That means at the point where it's looking for the index. Okay, how will I explain it? Okay, let me open my whiteboard. I really want us to understand this thing. So I'm going to open my whiteboard to understand, to explain better. All right, our whiteboard is opening. All right, very good. Just a minute. Whiteboard can sometimes take time to load. All right. So now what we are asking you to do essentially, now this is our text, John Doe, and John Doe is inside where? John Doe is inside of the cell E2. Now we're using the find formula, right? We said find that place where there's empty space inside of which cell? Sorry, inside of which cell? Inside of E2. So what it's going to do is now that it will go inside of this John Doe and start looking for the place where there's empty space. So you look at this one and you say, oh, this one is number 1. That's an empty space. Oh, look at this one. This one is number 2. It's not an empty space. Look at this one. This one is number 3. Oh, it's not an empty space. This one is number 4. No, it's not an empty space. Now this one is number 5. Now this is where we have empty space, right? So immediately he found the empty space, he believes that that's the one, right? We are believing that that's the one that is separating the first from the last name. So what we did in that scenario, when we're using equals to left into brackets E2, comma, then we inserted this find, right? We inserted this find into brackets where there is space, comma, E2. Then we now did, remember we did -1. So what we are believing at that point is that now this one gave us 5 because it gave us the index number where it found the empty space. Remember, I've explained it here, which is 5. So which means this time around, what it's doing is that left into bracket E2, comma, 5 -1, right? So since we did 5 -1, this is the location. It is the location 5 that it found an empty space. So what it's going to do is that it's going to subtract that space. That is the reason why we are doing -1, is that we are removing that space, right? We are removing the space so that we are left with what? We are left with John, right? So that it doesn't fill the space with it. And that's why we have to do a -1. If we do not do the -1, it's going to return John and space. which we don't want. And I'm going to give us an example of how it's going to do that. So let's say, for example, we remove the minus one. Right? This minus one that we did help us remove the space. But what if we did not remove the space? So it's returning John. But when you click on it, let me copy and paste the value somewhere else so that you can see it. So copy and value, paste only values. Right. So when you see this value, can you see that in my mouse? Can you see that there's space? Can you see that space? Hello, can we see that space that I returned?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it? Can we see that space?
Yes, ma'am.
Exactly. So it's because we needed to remove this space, and that's why we had to do a minus one, right? So that it removes the space, and then we are left with just John, which is the name of the person. So, do we have any question based on that explanation? So, if
No, ma'am.
what did you say?
No, no.
All right, Mr. Kasim, do you understand, sir?
Yes.
All right, great. So now, if you want it to reflect across all the other columns, you just do what? We click on this small, what's it called, square box, and we double click down, right? We double click down, so it actually applies the same formula. Then now let's look at how we can get our last. We have been able to get our first sales rep. That is the first name of the sales rep. Now let's look at the last name for our sales rep. Now for the last name, we are going to use what? We are going to be making use of the right function, right? So rather than using left, because this is where it is, this is where the last name is. So we are going to be using left. So sorry, we're going to be using right either. So we are going to say okay equals to. So let's delete this G part. This is just easy for explanation. So in this place, we are going to say equals to. We are going to start with right, and then we are going to say where do we need to find the name from. That's E2, right? Then we are also going to use learn A2 minus find. We are going to use find again, but this time around, instead of using find immediately, we're going to use learn of A2. And what does learn A2 does for us? Okay, let's apply it somewhere else. Let me close this bracket. It's going to give an error, but I want us to close it and see what learn we actually give to us. So learn will do this for us. If we say learn into bracket E2, learn E2 will definitely give us the length of everything. That is the length of John Doe. And the length of John Doe is 8. Because when you count, John is 1, 0, O is 2, H is 3, N is 4, space is 5, D is 6, O is 7, E is 8. So when we print it, you can see that it returned 8. Now remember that we want to get Doe, which is the last name. So which means this time around, you'll be saying right of E2, they will say length of A2, that is 8 minus length of A2, right? 8 minus, then we are going to say minus. We will not use the find function again. Find the place where there is space, right? We are telling Excel to find the place where there is space, and then comma. Remember that when we were doing find the space where there is space or find the place where there is space, remember that that character is 5, right? Remember that it gave us 5. So we are going to say find the place where there is space. That is the space that is dividing the first and the last name. And we are going to say E2. That is where you should find it. And then when you run, we have run this find E2 earlier on, and it gave us what? It gave us 3. So which means that it's going to look for the E2, right? And it's going to go to length A2. The length of A2, as we have seen here, is 8. And it's going to subtract it from the point, right? The point where the space occurred, which is in our case scenario 5. So when you run it, it's going to give you, is there an error that we did? Let's see, am I making any error? Len A2, right? Minus find into brackets. Oh, E2. Sorry, it's not so even supposed to be A2, it's E2. I made a mistake here when I was explaining. So when we do it, you can see it gives us do actually. So that's the actually quick brain technique to use to get the first and the last name. So remember here, we decided to get the length of everything because we already know that right moves from what? It moves from right to left, which means it moves backward. Left moves forward, right moves backward. So we needed to get the length of the entire thing and subtract the index where the space occurred for us to be able to pull out the last name, right? Or for us to be able to pull out the last set of characters. So that's actually how to do it. Do we have any question based on left and right? Any questions?
No,
Huh?
no.
All right, Mr. Kasim, any questions based on left and right?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
All right, very good. So the same way we did, what is it called now? The same way we did left and right, that's the same way we have mid function. Mid function just helps us to get the middle text, and then we specify, okay, how many characters forward, how many characters backward, where should he even start from, which character should he even start from, and then the number of characters that he should pick. So let's say we want to get mid function of, or the mid function of this same John Doe. So what we are going to do is to say, okay, equals to mid into bracket. Where is our text? Our text is inside of E2, right? Then we are going to specify where you should start from. You can specify that you should start from n, right? And inside of this place, our n is in which index? Our n is in index 4. It's just normal counting. J is 1, 0 or O is 2, H is 3, N is 4. So we are telling it to start from index number 4 inside of John Doe. And it should stop. We should, how many characters should it pick up? You can specify 3, and then it's going to return n space capital D, right? So if you specify 3 and close it, you can see it is returning n space capital D. That's what the mid function actually helps us to achieve, or helps us to get, right? The concatenate function. Concatenate function helps us to join as many texts as possible. So let's say in another example, right? Rather than then giving us full name here, we are giving last name and first name, right? So we are going to use the concatenate function to concatenate both of these two and call it full sales rep name. So we are going to say full sales rep name, right? So what we are going to do is equals to, right, concatenate. The name of the function is concatenate. You can already see it here, concatenate. That's the name of the function. You can already see the definition. Just several text string into one text string, and we can see how we can do it. So concatenate into brackets. Remember, we want to join first sales rep and last sales rep. So what do? We have to specify F2. That's where the first sales rep is starting. So we say F2. But remember, we want to join two names together. We need to leave space in between them. So we are going to say F comma, then we are going to specify a space, right? And then we are going to specify the last one I want to join to it, which is G2. And then we are going to close our brackets. You can see it returns John Doe. And then when we apply it to the other part as well, it actually gives us what we need essentially. So that's how concatenate actually works. It's used to join multiple text into one. We have the trim function. The trim function is just used to trim a text so that it can remove extra space, right? So trim removes extra spacing. So if we use this example, let's see how it works, right? So trim removes extra spacing. Okay, we don't have a text that has extra spacing here. So yeah, but technically, let's see how it works. So if we have an example just based on our class notes, we are trimming hello world. Let's see what it returns to us. You can see it has removed all those other extra spaces, right? Let me copy the value so that you'll be able to see. So copy, and then let me paste the value here. Paste as value, right? So when you look at it, you can see that it has removed all those extra spaces that were around it. So that's what trim does. It helps us trim a text to make sure that extra spaces are removed. Now, logical functions, which is the last function that we are looking at today, and then we do a quick class work or a quick hands-on essentially. Now, logical function, we have different types of logical functions, and we call them logical functions. They are and or. We have seen and, we have seen or, right? Then there's another one called if error, that is if there's error. So what does and helps us do? And returns true if all arguments are true, right? So let's say you want to see, okay, if all the arguments are true, right? And technically it returns true if all the arguments that were put inside are true, right? So let's say we want to say, okay, excuse me, we want to check if total sales, okay, let's see, we want to check if total sales is less than, so let's call it if total sales less than, what was it called, if total sales less than um 5,000, right? If it's less than 5,000, and if it is, and if it is, no, if total sales is greater than 1,000, if it's greater than 1,000, right? If total sales greater than 1,000, so it means you are trying to get a middle point, right? If total sales is greater than 1,000 and it is less than 5,000, right? And if it is less than 5,000, so which means that if total sales meets these requirements, what will we return? It will actually return true, right? Remember, we are trying to see if it's less than 1,000, if it's greater than 1,000, right? And if it is less than 5,000. So what do we do in that scenario? We use an if condition. So what do? We say equals to if, right? And we have to specify. Remember that the column we are looking at is total sales. So we start from the very first cell, which is L2. So we are saying if L2 is, remember, we are doing greater than 1,000. So we are doing greater than 1,000, right? So you can actually see from the parameter that we have here, you can see from our example in our class notes, two logical conditions. We can apply logical conditions, right? So we are trying to see if our sales is greater than 1,000. Sorry, oh, sorry, this is less than. So it should be if it's greater than 1,000, right? And if that same L2 is less than 5,000, right? And this value if true, right? As you see in the condition that is here, value if true. I've mentioned it times without number that when you see something like this is optional. So if you don't want it to return true and false, you have to specify a value, right? So let me say, for example, let's first run this. Let's even see how it works first. So it means that I want to know if my total sales is greater than 1,000 and if it is less than 5,000. So let's run it. You can see that it returns false, which means that truly, let's answer the question: is this thing greater than 5,000? Is it greater than 1,000 or not? That's our first question. Is it greater than 1,000 or not?
Yes.
Yes, it's
Greater
greater than 1,000. Now my question: is it less than 5,000?
than no.
Exactly, it's not less than 5,000. So which means that when you are using and, all of the conditions that you are giving must be true, right? All of the conditions that you are using must be true. It's only if all of the conditions are true that it will return true. If even one of that condition is false, it's going to return false. And that's exactly why it is returning false here, because 5,000 is less than 1,000. 5,000 is greater than 1,000, but it is not less than 5,000. So let's do the same thing here. Let's apply the same thing. I can see the three places where it returns true. Just those places where the value is greater than 1,000, but it is less than 5,000. So that's how if works. Now I was trying to explain something. If you don't want to just return a couple of true and false, true and false, true and false, you can say, okay, let us return what we call, let us return the text greater. Else, if it's not true, let us return what we call lesser, right? So that anybody that seeing it will see, oh, is lesser than 5,000, right? What's this one saying? Yeah, enter to menu argument, photos function, value is false. Okay, they're optional, but you can also use it as well. So you just give me a minute. Yeah, I think this one usually takes it when there's no second condition attached. Sorry.
Subject or what?
Right. So we need to keep this inside of a very small bracket. Yeah, and actually we need to keep it inside the and bracket. Yeah, the and. Sorry, I was using if instead of and. So sorry. There should be an and here that is unifying both of these values. This is and, right? So it's saying too many few arguments for this. Right? I used if, not and. It should be and. So and helps us to actually specify, or it helps us to combine both of them together. So the value that it should return, if it is true, and it should return lesser if it is false, right? So let's run it again. You can see it's returning lesser because it's false. So basically, we were doing the and, I was using if, which means we can do a combination of if and, right? So and helps us to specify both of those together. That is, both of these must be true, right? Both of these must be true, right? But if you are using if alone, it will return true and false. And if you are using and alone, okay, so let's use and alone. I've done a combination of if and without knowing. So let's use and alone to do that same thing that we are trying to actually do. Sorry, let me delete this one. So we are going to use and alone to do the combination of what we are trying to do in the first place. So I'm going to be copying just this and. I'm going to copy just this and I'm going to place it here. Let's see what it's going to return. Right. So equals, let's put equals to has to be there for it to work. So you can see, and we actually do that same thing, but if also did the same thing for us, right? And did the same thing, but if also did the same thing for us. So essentially, when you use and, you can actually see it only gets you true when it's greater than 1000 and if it is lesser than 1000. So when you are using and, you can see actually how and works, right? And helps you to check. You must make sure that both of the conditions are actually true. So if you now want to return another value, you don't just want to return false, true, false, true. Use the combination of if and. If and will allow you assign another value if the value is false, and another value if the value is true, essentially, right? So do we have any question before we quickly go to or? Or is very similar, but in that or only needs one of the conditions to be true, while and needs both of the conditions to be true. So do we have any question quickly before we go to or?
No, ma.
Mr. Kazim, any question?
No, I'm okay.
All right. So let's quickly go to or. Just like I've specified, right? Or just needs any of the conditions to be true, right? So I'm going to copy this column name and I'm going to put it back here again. I'm going to be putting or in brackets. Or just needs one of the conditions to be true, right? So we are going to do the same thing. We are going to use or in our case scenario. Sorry. All right. So let's use or. So we are going to change this and we are going to change it to or. So I'll see how it works. You can see we are using or, which means if any of the conditions is true, even if you have 10 conditions and one of it is true, it's going to return what? It's going to return true. So let's see. You can see it returns true, right? You can see it returns true because all just needs one of the condition to be true, because the condition that we are giving it is if total greater than 1000 or if it is less than 5000, right? And truly total is greater than 1000, true or false?
True.
Very good. But it is not less than 5000, true or false?
It's not less than 5,000.
Very good. Now, the only condition that was just satisfied is greater than 1000, and it's good and okay. It will work with that condition. So all just needs one of the conditions to be true, while and needs all the logical conditions that were given to actually be true. All just needs at least one of the conditions to actually be true. Now let's quickly look at if error. That is when you're trying to do a calculation and if there's an error, what should it actually do? So let's do a very funny calculation and let's see what it gives to us, right? If there's an error, what should it specify? Let's say we are trying to work on a massive Excel sheet and then we ran into an error. So let's say we wanted to calculate the quantity by dividing the total sales by the unit price. But we now made the mistake of assigning this division. We now made the mistake of assigning M2 divided by L2 instead of L2 divided by K2, right? Because we are trying to get unit quantity by dividing total sales by unit price. But we made the mistake of using M2 and L2. So what's the value that it should return if there's an error? We are going to specify that check check your cells again. Check your cells again, right? So that's if there's an error. This helps us to do error catching, right? So you can see what it outputted. So this is what we call error catching. It helps us to catch errors very easily when we are working on Excel.
So we may not actually know that we have made a mistake somewhere. But if we use if error, right, that is rather for it to give us big Excel error and then we'll be seeing nonsense values. This is how we can catch errors. If there's an error, if errors exist, it will tell us to check ourselves again. So when we check ourselves and say, oh, M2 and L2, sorry, we are using M2 and L2. Oh, so we need to go back and do what? Correct it to L2. You need to correct it to L2, right, and K2. So this time around, you can see when there's no error, it actually gives us the correct value. Well, that's what if error does, right? So any questions so far before we do our hands-on?
No, ma.
All right, so this is going to be our last class, but I'm going to be giving us this table, right? This is our table, and so we are going to be calculating. Hmm, I want us to actually do something. So I don't know how I can copy and paste this table in such a way that I'll be able to pick it up very quickly. But let me see. I'm going to give us a couple of minutes for our classwork. We are going to have like 20 minutes. We are going to be using everything that we have learned today to actually do it. So it's not the same thing in this place that is your classwork. This is just an example, but we are going to be making use of this same table. I might even extend it. So let me stop sharing my screen. I will extend it and then I will send you the Excel workbook into your class group. So you are going to have like 20 minutes to quickly do it and finish it. After that 20 minutes, you have to still present your work, right? You have to present your work. Let me stop sharing. So the classwork is to use all the formulas that we have learned in class, right? Use all the formulas that we have learned in class. And make sure that you are specifying the question that you are trying to answer. So specify the question that you're trying to answer. Just like we specified, what was the total sales made by Emily White? Specify the question that you are trying to answer, right? And yeah, just a minute. You open a new Excel workbook. Excel
The class of
workbook. All right. So the question: use all the things that we used in class today. Use all the formulas that we used in class today. I'm going to be sending it to you now, including your class notes. So I don't have I sent you the class notes the last time? Did I send it to you the last time?
no.
Okay. So export. Export.
I can't hear anything. The network won't be out.
Oh yes, so I said you're going to have classwork now. I've sent what was it called? I've sent something. So all the formulas that we used in class and our class notes so that we can refer to our class notes as well. I've sent it to our class group on WhatsApp. So all the formulas that we used in class today, we are going to use it on that table. And we are going to specify the question that we are trying to answer, right? So which means you are going to be using if, right? You're going to be using VLOOKUP, we use XLOOKUP, we use index match, we use just left and right, we use middle, just those formulas inside just to practice, or pick the 5 ones that you want to use to practice, right? The top 5, so that will be done on time. Pick the top 5 formulas that you want to practice with on that data. So if you look at our Excel group, I've sent us the what's it called now? I've sent us the data that I want us to use, as well as our class notes, so that we can be able to refer to it. So in the next 20 minutes, use a couple of formulas on that data to actually extract a meaningful answer, right, from your data. Use those formulas to extract meaningful things from the data. So that's the question. And we have just 20 minutes, right? Because I've limited it to 5 formulas. So you have just 20 minutes. And then when we come back, we explain um how we use this formula to answer the questions that we specified. So yes, that's our class work. So let's quickly do it within 20 minutes and then we'll come back by 1:49. I don't know if I've gotten that. Hello, have you gotten that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Kasim, I don't know if you got that. Use any 5 formulas that you can use and use it to answer questions based on that data. Any question, it can be any
Okay, thank
question.
you.
The question is choice. All right, so we'll come back by 1:49.
Happy, why are you just making noise? Your mouth is as loud as speaker.
All right, so it's 12:49 or 1:49. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Hi, Mr. Kasim, are you there? Hello, Mr. Kasim, can you hear us? Okay, Mr. Kasim has unmuted, please. Can you hear us, sir? All right. So we said 5 formulas, right? So I'm guessing we should have been done. So Covenant, hope you have been able to do something.
I'm still trying, but it's
Oh
showing
yeah,
what I'm
present. So present your screen. Let's see the work that you've done.
okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead to present. Let's see the work you've done.
It didn't show.
What did you say?
Can
Yeah, we
you?
can see your screen now.
So I said
We can see your screen.
I've been trying the VLOOKUP and it sent me NA not available.
That's because you have an error inside of your January. So can you click down again? You click on that same cell where you are. Can you see that you left a space in your January? Look at your January.
Oh,
That's number one. Number two, you specify words for VLOOKUP. You specify your table array, right? Then number three. So try running again.
wow, sister, one.
Exactly. Can you see where your error is coming from?
Yes.
So
I didn't
next
know.
time, maybe you're seeing that you're having errors. Look well into your code again just to see where it's coming from. So you have not been able to try any other formula.
Yes, because of this one.
Okay, so Mr. Kasim just left the class. I don't know. Probably. So try the rest of the other formulas this time around since it's just an assignment. Try the rest of the other formulas and let's see, right? Submit your assignment. It's going to be an assignment. But I don't want to waste our time further. We spent sorry for the background noise. We've spent close to 2 hours already. Yeah. So let's just meet in the next class, right? Please submit your assignment. Let's meet in the next class. Is that fine? So you can do this one on your phone, true or false.
True,
Mm-hmm.
true, true.
And you have to specify the question that you're answering in using that formula. So you can't just use a formula. Specify the question you're trying to answer, submit, and then next class you're moving to Power BI. Yeah, we are done with Excel. We are moving to Power BI next class. So see you next week and take care.
Okay, ma'am.
All right, bye.